Johanse IODK joins us this morning live on set, behavioral change specialist, and this morning he asked the question to you, Trinidad and Tobago. Do you prefer Juve or the Pretty Mass? Let's get into that conversation immediately. Johanse, great to see you. Thanks for the time and welcome as always.
Morning, Jason, and morning to everybody viewing.
What a question, because, you know, there are those who draw their line in the sand. Okay. There are people who, Juve, that's their time. Monday and Tuesday, they could sit in the stands and take it in. There are those who are going through that Juve because they have to beat the face, get themselves ready for the Pretty Mass on the road Monday and Tuesday. To me, both truly magical. I really can't decide per se. I think if I was to lean towards one, I probably would say a little bit, I'll probably stick my neck out a little bit for Juve. Don't get me wrong, I love Pretty Mass, but there's something really special about Juve morning.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
That's my kind of personal take.
Let me set our baseline, right? Human behavior is taught into feeling into action. So whatever going on here, we express it based on our actions. So your choice based on what's going on inside of you. And you know, because it's mental health matters, I want the nation to be introspective on why you're doing things. So it's not even judging which one right or wrong or better or worse. It's judging the why. And I'll give some reasons I've heard in terms of Pretty Mass versus Juve. Some people like the color of things. Some people don't like the bacchanal. They just like to look nice. Both men and women, they like the aesthetic of it. Versus some people say in Juve, they don't care even who they're dancing with, who they're with, who. They just want to dance, to meet up, to do wildness, to do things that they didn't do. You know, back in the day, I don't know if it's still done in Juve, you know, the posy, the diaper, just to do things you didn't do before.
It's a free up moment, and it's a moment to kind of, I guess, come out your skin. I mean, to me, no judgment. At least back in the day, I don't know about now, but I know especially that 4 o'clock, there's a special hour, special time, and I think from around 4 when it's still dark to about probably 8:30, 9. I think from the time 9:30, 10 o'clock hit you and you're still out there in character, you know, we had to kind of make some way for the Pretty Mass. However, a lot of people too love Juve because it was their first carnival experience. My first time on the road with friends would have been Juve. It wasn't Pretty Mass. I was a teen, I couldn't afford Pretty Mass. So you go out with your little youth group, about 10 of us strong. This back in the 90s, we're talking here 16, 17, and we go as a team and we jump up. We storm a band and we play a Juve and you come back real nice. You enjoy yourself. So it could kind of also speak to the history and how you were introduced to the carnival experience.
I agree with that. And sometimes even life circumstances shape how you interact with carnival. So even understanding that, and somebody, and not necessarily yourself, but may say, you know, I prefer Juve, but they had the experience where Juve was the first thing that they could only afford. But the truth is now they could afford playing Pretty Mass, that may be their thing now. So even to understand the genesis of why you're doing things. And when you understand it, to know if that's what you still want to do, or you want to venture into something else, or even venture into both.
Yeah, you know, Juve is a scenario, and I want to stick on Juve before we go back to the Pretty Mass. I mentioned the word judgment. You think, again, for me, I think Juve is a time for people to free up. But I find recently you're kind of seeing judgment. People kind of, I don't know, could you go too far in a Juve character? Could you go too far in your expression for Juve? Is there room for judgment at all, Juve morning? I don't think so.
To be honest, once you're not breaking the law, right? You have no going far in being yourself.
Okay.
And I'm going to put it that way.
Explain.
And I've heard because you are you. How you could go too far in being who you are. If you want to spin on your head, that's your self-expression. So you have no too far. Now somebody in their view of the world or their view of you may say you're going too far. Again, if you're not breaking the law or breaking any of your moral boundaries. And you bring up that point because I've heard some people say they prefer Juve because of the less judgment. Well, and a lot of times it's judgment of themselves. So you have some people in terms of the weight, I just gave you an example, they're not comfortable with their own weight. So they don't want the Pretty Mass where everybody's seeing them, but they're okay with Juve because it's kind of dark, everybody doing their thing. So understanding there's both sides in front of the fun and enjoyment, but it also the side of bringing out insecurities and judgment, and you're doing that to mask it.
You know, the carnival experience, it's ever-changing. It's an evolution almost. And what Mass would have represented, I would imagine, in the 60s and 70s and 80s, coming up the road with our parents, into the 90s, 2000s, when probably we started to kind of experience it, to where it is now. it's so different. Is that also your observation?
Yeah, it's different. And you see that judgment you're talking about, because with the advent of social media, and even, let's say, before social media, where it started to advertise and publicize Carnival even more. I always noticed that you've seen it on TV, right? I remember watching it on TV, but when the camera come close to the person, you could see sometimes the insecurity in somebody when the camera hit them, or versus the comfort in their own skin. So when things became more publicized, people started changing. And I don't think that's for the good, because Carnival, again, is the expression. People leave far and wide to come here to be themselves, to express themselves. And we here, this is our culture. So when you're deciding Juve or Pretty Masters, have no better or worse, but really understand why you yourself choosing to do it.
What you would say to the person who goes into the Carnival experience, they do a deep dive, they spend the money, they play a mass, they do Juve, they do all the big all-inclusive fetes, and yet still, when it's all said and done, the takeaway wasn't a good one. They just didn't enjoy the Carnival. It had no vibe. They didn't feel it. Is that something personal? Is that something within the person, or is just... Because again, most of these events, these all-inclusives, I mean, QRC is around the corner. Proper event. Decor, timing, top tier.
Exactly, and that's the best school in Trinidad, I knew it.
Right, and they're coming up in a bit to talk about the all-inclusive, right, but I'm talking just, whether it's Hyatt Lime you went to, you would have gone to Izwi with Kes, you play mass, you did all. But for some reason, it just didn't connect. That had to be something on the person?
Well, it's an internal job first. I'm going to do the internal job, because if you're not doing something you really want to do, you wouldn't enjoy it. Yeah. No matter how expensive the fete is, no matter how good the food is, no matter how good you look, right? That's internal food. So it's better you do what you comfortable and you like doing. But also, as we're talking about time changing, if we are around people now
yes,
who doing the same thing, so we have a lot of fakers, everybody fake, and wherever way it is, then of course that will lessen the vibe. Versus, and I will use Juve as an example, most people come to be themselves. So no matter what race, what age, your economic background, you would feel the vibe. Even if you come a little low, because everybody vibe around you, it will raise your vibe. So it's twofold, your internal and also what you're around.
Yeah, and probably sometimes who you're around too, the people, what you're around, the environment. I'll let you have the final say as we wrap up this amazing conversation. Again, Juve versus the Pretty Mass. What's your preference going into the season? What's the final thought?
Trinidad and Tobago, and even those coming from foreign, when you're deciding whether you're playing Juve or Pretty Mass, make sure it's the proper expression, it's the genuine expression of who you are. Don't make life complicated, because even though life is not easy, it's really not that hard. Thanks for listening.
Indeed, you want to say IODK touching base, and I guess the reason you want to say, I mean, if you saw how, when I mentioned QRC, the man light up. He's a QRC old boy, an old Royalian.
See the thing proper.
Of course. I wanted to go to school, I didn't go, but I respect the walls, man. Great school, Fete Royale. It's happening, and the coronation takes place this weekend. Full details after the break. We get you ready for QRC, all inclusive.